Everyone warned me that one day I'd regret it. They said I'd miss everything I was letting go of, that selling my belongings, donating them, giving things away, and walking away from the life I'd spent years building would eventually leave me full of regret. I heard it from people around me. I read it over and over again in comments, and for a long time, I believed them. Truthfully, I kept telling myself the exact same thing. You'll regret this. That fear stayed with me for years. It was the biggest reason I kept putting it off. But something unexpected happened. The regret never came. Instead, I found something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Relief. Real, genuine relief. That's why I wanted to share this story today. This isn't another video about selling everything or starting over. It's about what happened afterward. It's about what nobody really talks about once the dust settles. Because after reading so many comments from people who said they're standing exactly where I used to stand, stuck between the life they have and the life they secretly want, I realized maybe my experience could help someone else. For years, I carried around this feeling that something just wasn't right. Have you ever felt that? You wake up every morning, go through the same routine, do everything you're supposed to do, and yet deep down, something keeps whispering that this isn't the life you were meant to live. You can't always explain it, you just know. I lived with that feeling for years. Now, I'm not here to tell anyone what they should do with their life or their money. I'm probably the last person qualified to tell somebody else how to live. I'm simply sharing what happened to me, because everything I feared turned out to be completely wrong. I expected to miss all my stuff. I expected to feel empty. Instead, I felt lighter. It almost feels impossible to describe. It's like carrying a heavy backpack for years without realizing how much it weighs, and then one day taking it off. You suddenly realize how exhausted you've been all along. That's what this felt like. Letting go of those possessions wasn't losing something. It was making room for something better. For years, fear kept me standing still. Fear told me I'd need all those things someday. Fear convinced me that holding on was safer than moving forward. And I understand why so many people feel that way. I was one of those people. After all, we work incredibly hard for what we own. We tell ourselves, I might need this later. That sentence probably cost me years, especially when it came to my tools. I had duplicates of everything. I kept buying, collecting, organizing, storing, just in case. I've always considered myself a pretty frugal person. Sure, I've wasted money like everyone else has, but I never thought I was buying things just to buy them. Yet somehow I had accumulated so much. Now that it's gone, I don't miss any of it. In fact, I keep looking around, wondering what else I can let go of. Because every item I removed felt like another weight lifted off my shoulders. One of the hardest things I thought I'd ever part with wasn't furniture or tools. It was memories. At least, what I thought were memories. Some of my military keepsakes were incredibly difficult to look at. Awards, letters, old papers, things I convinced myself I had to keep forever. I still held on to a few meaningful pieces, but eventually I realized something. I didn't need every single object to remember that chapter of my life. The memories weren't inside those boxes. They were already inside me. The second thing, and honestly, probably the hardest, was letting go of some of my father's belongings. Maybe this is the part that speaks to you, because I've read countless comments from people who experienced the same thing after losing a parent or someone they loved. They spent days, sometimes weeks, going through a lifetime of belongings, collections, boxes, closets full of things that meant everything to the person who owned them, but meant very little to anyone else. I experienced that myself. My mother passed away when I was young. Years later, I helped my father move after she was gone. We donated and threw away so much. Back then, I didn't really think much about it. Life moved on. Then a few years ago, my father passed away. Like many families, there were difficult circumstances, hard decisions, and things that simply happen in life. I found myself going through everything he had left. I'll never forget that feeling. Standing there, holding something that belonged to my dad, knowing I couldn't keep it, and feeling guilty for even thinking about throwing it away. It broke my heart. I kept asking myself, what kind of son throws away his father's things? But the truth was, there wasn't room for all of it. And honestly, there wasn't a reason to keep all of it either. I saved what truly mattered: photographs, a few personal items, his old camouflage hat that he always wore while working outside. Those things carried memories. But there were so many other belongings that didn't. They were simply things. For years I held on to items connected to parts of my father's life that had nothing to do with my own. College memorabilia, old possessions, boxes that stayed closed for years. Every time I looked at them, they didn't make me smile. They made me sad. Not because of what they were, but because they reminded me that he was gone. Eventually I realized something that changed my perspective forever. The memories I treasure most aren't sitting inside a storage box. They're in my heart. They're in the conversations we had, the lessons he taught me, the moments we shared. No object could ever replace those, and no object could preserve them either. That realization was incredibly freeing. It felt like I was finally allowing myself to remember him, instead of carrying the weight of his belongings. I know many of you have said exactly the same thing. Don't leave an entire lifetime of possessions for your children or family to sort through one day. I understand that now more than ever. Again, I'm not telling you this is the right path for everyone. I'm simply telling you what happened to me. There are people who love collecting things, decorating beautiful homes, and surrounding themselves with possessions that bring them joy. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But there are also people who feel trapped by everything they've accumulated. People who are exhausted by constantly maintaining a life that no longer feels like their own. I think there are more of us than I ever imagined. When I first started sharing these thoughts, I honestly believed I'd be one of the few people who felt this way. Instead, I found thousands. People who are tired of chasing bigger houses, bigger paychecks, and more stuff. People who are worn out from running on a treadmill that never stops. People quietly asking themselves, is this really all there is? Reading your stories has reminded me that none of us are as alone as we think. This community has become something I never expected. Every comment, every story, every shared struggle, it reminds me that there are people all over the world searching for something much simpler than success. They're searching for peace. If you're standing where I once stood, unsure, scared, wondering if letting go might be a mistake, all I can tell you is this. I thought freedom meant having more. Instead, I discovered freedom began the moment I needed less. Whether your journey looks anything like mine or completely different, I truly hope you find whatever brings you peace. And if this story helped you feel a little less alone, then sharing it was worth it. And do share your valuable opinion in the comment section to help the community. Have a peaceful day.